You're listening to Women's Cricket Chat with
Hannah
and Alex. Coming up on the podcast, we've got another 2009 double World Cup winner, 4 times Ashes winner, and that is Lydia Greenway. Lydia Greenway talks about her illustrious 13-year career, her coaching career, how she's found commentating, and even setting up her own coaching clinic and her own online female store to help provide gear for girls and women, to create gear that's catered towards women and girls.
A really good place to start is obviously yesterday was the anniversary of the 2009 World Cup win, and obviously that year as a whole was huge. So talk us back through the fond memories that you've got there.
Yeah, I mean, that was an amazing year for us as players and all the coaching staff involved. And actually that journey started a long time before the actual World Cup final. It was back in 2005 when I don't think we even made the semi-finals out in South Africa. So the journey that group of players went on was brilliant. And yeah, I just remember we had the final out in North Sydney Oval, and obviously played New Zealand, and we got across the line. So obviously a great thing to be involved with.
And tell us more about that year as well, because I think I've spoken to you in the past about this. Like, that was the first time that I saw like women's cricket for the first time. That was when it first got kind of put on the map for me. So how important was that year generally, just to get that kind of women's cricket consciousness building for perhaps my generation and others to follow?
Yeah, I think it's interesting actually. If you compare, so the 2009 World Cup out in Australia was sort of our winter time. And then we very quickly had the T20 2009 World Cup, which was in our English summer. And the 2009 50 over World Cup, people sort of knew what was going on. It might have got a mention on the radio, but actually the one when it was on home soil was quite a big shift, I think, in sort of people being aware of the women's game. So, by the end of our final in 2009 at Lords for the T20, Lords was nearly a sellout. And a bit of a disclosure, it was a double header then. So the reason why it was nearly a sellout is actually because they had made it a double header with the men's final. So there were people trickling in to see the men's final who caught the end of our game. And I think those people suddenly thought, oh, okay, amazing. Like, our country's just won the World Cup final. So they thought, oh, it must be pretty good. And just the fact that it was covered more as well on TV, on radio, it was publicised more. That was, obviously brilliant. So I think when you look back at the history of the game, that's probably, certainly in England, one of the turning points, I think, for the growth of the women's game.
And you also just mentioned 2005. So obviously that was a big year with the Ashes as well. So tell us about that, and obviously the kind of the celebrations that went alongside that, because again, it was alongside the men, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. So it was funny actually, because we'd won the Ashes at Worcester, I think. I remember Isha Guha and Catherine Brunt were batting, and they batted for such a long time that it had an impact on the outcome of the result. So they sort of helped us win the Ashes, as did everyone involved. But we were actually waiting on the men's results, because that dictated as to whether we went on the open top bus ride through London. So if they hadn't have won the Ashes, then we wouldn't have had it. So they won the Ashes, and our sort of reward, if you like, was going through London. The streets were packed. There were literally people hanging out of office windows. Yeah, sort of 10, 15 people deep on the pavements. And then we sort of made our way into Trafalgar Square, and you couldn't see any pavement because it was just people, like swarms of people, and they were singing Jerusalem as the buses came in. And that's a moment that I will remember for a long, long time, just being able to have that occasion and obviously share it with all the good people that had been involved as well leading up to it.
Obviously, 2009 was a mammoth year for England women's cricket, with winning both World Cups, being double World Cup champions, and winning the Ashes. Did you feel like the momentum was with you to win the Ashes, or did you feel a sense of pressure to make it a three-peat?
No, I don't think so. One of the good things I think with that group of players back then was that we didn't really put that much pressure on ourselves. We just sort of took one game at a time. And I remember 2009 ODI World Cup, we didn't even talk about the final. So we didn't even talk about making a World Cup final. We only ever focused on the game that was in front of us. And that was very much the same with the Ashes as well. We didn't look too far ahead. And I guess the good thing is that it wasn't in the media as much. So that means you don't read any hype that's being said about a series coming up or players. Social media wasn't as big as it is now. So in a way, it was much easier to remain focused. But I think that's a challenge that players have these days is keeping that focus, especially with everything that goes on in the media and social media as well.
Obviously, during that time, it was kind of the pre-professional era. So to achieve all of that, despite having to, obviously, were you doing like Chance to Shine at that time? And like, how did you manage to actually kind of like pay your way and obviously win a double kind of World Cup that year and the Ashes?
Yeah, so as you say, a lot of us were Chance to Shine ambassadors, and that really was sort of the first stepping stone in us becoming professional. It allowed us to train as full-time athletes, but it also gave us flexibility and allowed us to earn a salary. So Chance to Shine was sort of instrumental in that, really, because they just said to us, coach with us when you can, but when you've got England commitments, that's it, you're off and you're going to play for England. So that was brilliant for a player who, I think a lot of us, we were trying to train full time and work full time, and it's just not sustainable from a physical point of view, just being able to do everything that you needed. So that was certainly a massive shift for the way that we were able to train and the time that we could dedicate to it as well.
Just taking it back, you made your debut in 2000 at 17 years old. What was it like to make your debut so young? And did you feel a sense of pressure to achieve what you wanted from the start?
It was a really strange debut, to be honest, because I was in Australia touring with the under-19 England team, and we had been out there. We played in their state competition, so we played all the states, and we were out there for about a month, and then I arrived back. And I'd literally been back a day, and Jane Powell, who I think you've had on here, she was fantastic because she was actually the manager of that group. And anyway, when we got back, she called me and she said, we want you to get back on a plane and fly out and join up with the England senior team this time to Australia, who were playing in the Ashes. And so, to be honest, I didn't really have that much time to think about it. I remember I arrived in Brisbane, we had a warm-up game, and then we were playing at the Gabba, and I was facing Catherine Fitzpatrick, and for people who know the women's game, she was probably the quickest bowler that the game's seen. And I just remember every single batter before me coming out were covered in bruises, and I thought, oh gosh, this isn't going to end well. So that was obviously a great experience, and to play alongside a lot of fantastic players, the Claire Taylors, Charlotte Edwards, Laura McLeod, so many good players that I was able to learn from.
The names you just mentioned as well, like everybody from that kind of cohort have achieved so much now. So there must be something about kind of like your generation of players and ones slightly before as well, because everybody's achieving such great things and everybody's still doing things for women's cricket and like leading the way. Yeah,
they are. I mean, Lucy Pearson's another one as well. They're just, I suppose, with that era of players and the ones before us, we couldn't put all our eggs in one basket, really. You couldn't just say, I'm a professional cricketer, because financially it wasn't an option. So I think along the way, everyone was always working so hard to maintain another career outside of playing cricket. And so I suppose that's something that is a real positive, because I think one of the challenges when players come to retirement is knowing what to do. But when you're in an era of cricket where actually you still have to earn a living and play cricket, then it probably keeps you pretty well balanced. And I know obviously Sue Redfern, who you've had on as well, she's now leading the way with the officiating side of things. So it's always great to see those people who've contributed so much to the game.
And then you were talking about obviously batting in your debut, and what was it like being a left-hander? Because I mean, that sounded like such a strange question then, but we're severely kind of lacking some left-handed batters, because when we spoke to Eve Jones, she was saying like, if anybody's like listening, you know, I'm here for a call up, you know, you're missing out on the lefties, and that's what Australia are excelling in at the moment. And they even mentioned it in their documentary recently about the power of having more left-handed batters.
Oh, it's so true. Like I was lucky to spend some of the winter out working with the Sydney Sixers as their assistant coach, and a big part, more so in T20 cricket, is actually the formation and where you position your left-handers, because we know in the women's game that the ball turning away from the bat, if you think of Sophie Eccleston, to a right-hander, she's lethal. Same for the Leggings, and then. But as soon as you send a left-hander in, actually that plays to their strength, because the ball's spinning in, and generally people find that much easier to play. And I guess as well, it's regardless of the level that you're playing, the left-handed, right-handed combination will always just affect the bowler's line slightly. And yeah, I think it's a massive thing from a tactical point of view. And like you say, Australia have got a decent amount of left-handers. So yeah, I think as a coach, it's always nice to have options, definitely.
Do you think then England are missing a slight little trick by not having that combination?
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm sure Lisa Kitely, head coach, would say she'd love to have the option of having a left-hander. I suppose it's just identifying, okay, who is that player? You know, are there any lefties coming through? I don't know, but yeah, I think any coach would say to you, we'd love to have the option of having that left-hand, right-hand combination.
So you just mentioned with the Sydney Sixers, what's the difference as well between coaching in Australia versus coaching in England? And we'll talk more about your coaching shortly as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's for me, just coaching in Australia was a completely different, not different, but a new experience, because you're working with players who you've only ever known as someone that you've played against. So the like of Elise Perry, Alyssa Healy, I was suddenly working as a coach with those groups of players, and it was just amazing to get some insight in how they prepare, what makes them tick, and then just learning from, you know, there's always so much to learn. And I was lucky to work with Ben Sawyer, who was the head coach, and I think he's going to be head coach of Birmingham Phoenix in the 100 this year. So just being able to work with someone like that and see how he works. But the competition itself, the Big Bash, is brilliant, and I think and I hope that that's where the 100 will take the game. You know, you go to a women's game, it's a standalone game, and there's boys and girls, there's families, and it's just a great environment to be in, and that's sort of my hope for the 100, is that will create that sort of environment for us over here.
Because I guess as well, we saw on social media, it kind of went viral within the New Zealand, is it called the Marsh?
Yes, yeah, that's right.
We saw like Sophie Devine, obviously, and the young lad, and when he kind of called it out when the presenter went over and was like, oh, what do you think of this like men's player? And he was like, well, he's not Sophie Devine. And those things are changing, aren't they? So it must be nice to see that as well.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's that generation of children who don't see gender as much. I know I was chatting to Scott Boswell, who's head of cricket at Trent College, and they've had Jenny Gunn working at their school, which obviously is amazing to have that sort of person there. But he just said, you know, the boys don't see her as a female cricketer. They see her as, oh my God, we've got Jenny Gunn coaching us. And he was so genuine about it. He just said the boys are as excited as the girls as having Jen coach them. So that was such a nice thing to hear, because it's just a massive shift in where the game has been. And I think it makes it really exciting.
Honestly, I just got goosebumps then when you said that. I was like, oh my God, this is what we want to hear. Like, this is the future, because it's so hard to change kind of people's perceptions when they're so ingrained and so kind of, I guess, that older generation who are very kind of, this is what I believe in, and this is, you know, that's it. I'm not going to allow you to change perceptions regardless of how much media coverage you do or whatever. Yeah. It's these younger kids and the teenagers now who, that's who we want to be inspiring, isn't it? Like, it's those people, because they're going to change the game in years to come.
And I think it's accessibility as well. Like, I heard about the women's football new broadcasting deal, and I thought that's amazing. Like, I'm going to watch that. Like, I don't actually watch much men's football, but I will sit down and watch the women's play because it's just great. Like, I think when people have the opportunity to watch more, it's amazing. You don't always have to appeal to the same people who have always watched sport. Like, there's so many other people out there who want to watch something different. So yeah, it's really exciting. Sorry, I just went off on one then as well.
It's all right. That's what we like to hear on the podcast. And just bringing it back, you briefly mentioned about the 100. And is it true that you're going to be coaching the Oval Invincibles in the 100?
I was going to be coaching, but I'm not anymore. So the process that I was involved in last year was the recruitment of the players, and I was going to be head coach. But yeah, just unfortunately, I just probably haven't got enough time to commit to that role. It's such a big role and it's such a big commitment that, you know, you want to do it properly. So yeah, I can't wait for it to start all kicking off at the Oval. I know you had good old Beth Barrett-Wild on the other day. She's done a great job.
How do you find commentating and commentary in general? And is there anyone that you particularly look up to in terms of commentating?
Yeah, I think, well, yeah, to answer your first question, I love it. Like, it's been more of a learning process. So it's like learning a new skill because you're sort of thrusted in there, you're given a microphone, you've got someone talking in your ear, and you have to try and learn quite quickly. So from that point of view, I've loved it. And I really enjoy trying to provide insight, really. And then I guess in terms of the people, I think being able to work with someone like Isha Gua, she's one of my very good friends, but just seeing how she has developed, like, she's literally one of the best in the world at the moment, regardless of gender. So just watching her, seeing how she goes about things, the work that she puts into it is ridiculous. And then actually, you know, the guys are great as well, working with Mark Butcher, you know, people like that. There's so many of them at Sky and obviously the BBC as well with the radio stuff. So yeah, it's just nice to see how different people work and try and pick up on a few different things.
In terms of commentating, is there one that you favour more? Do you favour more radio or TV, or do you like them both the same?
I like them both the same, just for different reasons, actually. I think the radio, you know that you're there and you're sort of the buzz in the background, so it's nice and informal and it's quite comforting. And then I guess the TV stuff is... you have to be onto it. You have to really sort of, from, I guess, a technical point of view, if you want to talk about it like that, you have to really nail what you're doing. So yeah, I suppose I like the pressure of that side of things as well. So yeah, I've sat on the fence for that one. Sorry about that.
What tips would you give to potentially somebody like Alex who wants to go into broadcast? This is, you know, this is how you make networks as well, Alex, you know. Yeah. So yeah, now proper embarrassed her, but what tips would you give to somebody who is thinking of going down that path?
Oh gosh, I'm still learning as well, but what would I say? I think be yourself. I think be yourself as much as possible. I suppose try and provide insight that is of interest. Obviously, that sort of goes without saying. And then, yeah, I suppose with radio, it's just having that flow with the person that you're working with. I think if you can try and get to know them a bit more away from the microphone, then that's something that is quite helpful as well, because you get to understand a bit more about them and how they work. So yeah, by no means I'm not the guru, but I guess there are a few tips that I can give.
No tip is a bad tip, in my opinion.
Okay, that's good to know.
Just bringing it back to cricket, what sort of inspired you to take up cricket? Because growing up for me personally in Surrey-ish, fringe of Bromley, cricket's not really well known. It's not really played in state schools. So what inspired you to take it up?
Well, for me, I was lucky because my dad played. So I think looking back, that was probably the main route for any young girl. Is if you had a male relative, then you might have a chance of playing cricket. Whereas the refreshing thing now is actually it's in schools and it's it's an option for girls regardless of what their family's doing or their friends are doing. So that's great. So yeah, my dad sort of introduced it to me. We all sort of played at our local cricket club, Hayes, in Kent. And then my schools were always really supportive, actually. I went to a primary school and my local state school, and they were great. I think teachers have a big impact, I think, on girls and boys. Just, you always remember your best teachers, I think. And that's often because they're just passionate and they give you opportunity rather than being the people who teach you how to be good at sport, if that makes sense. I think their passion is the most important thing.
I completely agree, because it was only the other week I emailed one of my old PE teachers who's still at my old school, and I was like, thank you so much for, putting me on this path to have an interest within sport. And I remember one of my PE teachers, because I was known as the cricket girl at school, because you always have one of those kids, don't you? Like you always have like the football kid, the cricket kid, the tennis kid, whatever it might be or whatever. And I remember like playing a cricket match with one of my like female staff members, and I just remember she came along to one of our cricket matches because we were like short, and she was like, oh, you can call me by my first name, you don't have to call me Mrs. And that's just kind of stuck in my head as well, because I was like, this is so strange. But PE teachers are people too, and I think sometimes as kids you look up to them like they are super athletes, like fan athlete kind of relationships and stuff. But how important has cricket for girls been so far? Because tell us a little bit about that. Where did that idea kind of start, and how have you driven that kind of school cricket ethos?
So Cricket for Girls came about when I retired, really. So I wasn't too sure on what I wanted to do, and had quite a few clubs get in contact and say, can you just come and do a coaching session at a school or our club? And I said, yeah, of course. And then just sort of made me realise, actually, there's people who would benefit from having female coaches in the school, I think, and the clubs. I think the role model element is really important. We've actually shifted a bit how we work now. So going back to the teachers, like I think they're the most important people when it comes to inspiring young girls. So we actually train a lot of the teachers now. So we run lots of different courses. And I think what that does is, rather than relying on us as coaches to go out and deliver the programs, it's actually the teachers can do it, and it's much more sustainable. So the fact that they can do it for a long, long time rather than us just popping in and then going out again, it's not as sustainable. So yeah, our teacher training courses, and then we just sort of go into schools and deliver one-off coaching days, master classes, stuff like that. And then we're actually doing a bit of a roadshow, so a Cricket for Girls roadshow, and that's actually just more about giving keen cricketers just another opportunity to play the game. So yeah, it's very recreational, and we want to build it and develop it as much as possible, and just create more opportunities, really. I think it's important.
I would have honestly loved that as a kid, and I wish I could go back and be a kid now, because like girls have so many more opportunities.
Yeah, they do.
It's crazy, isn't it? And obviously there's still so much work to be done, but what are you kind of most proud of at this time, like, because it has been a big shift and you are part of that shift?
Yeah, I think just looking back on the game, I think where it is now, I think just the fact that, one of the England girls can say I'm a full-time cricketer, I think that's really powerful, because then that allows us at the grassroots end of the game to go in and say to young girls, you can be a professional cricketer now. And we couldn't say that a few years ago. So I think that's one of the most powerful things. It's just the fact with where the game's at now. As you say, there's still a lot to be done, but I think it's a really good starting point. And I hope the only way that it can go now is up, which is exciting.
Despite the women's cricket game being on the rise, what do you think are the challenges still facing the game? And what do you think it needs to overcome to still keep progressing to that higher level?
Oh, gosh, it's a good question. I think there's so many things that you could say, but I suppose looking around the world and all the countries playing it, I suppose what you want eventually is a more competitive nature with more teams. So at the moment in the women's game, although it's progressed from an international point of view, there's probably the top six, I would say, are the ones who are leading the way. But then I think you want that to be developed more, which it is. I think in future World Cups, it's going to grow and grow and grow, which is brilliant. But that has to filter down and probably start at domestic level. So I think domestic level across all the top nations, you want them to be shifting towards that at least semi-professional element so that they can provide consistently good players through their system. So, and then obviously the media as well. I think the media plays a big part, and they've always got the option to show women's cricket or to not. So you just hope that they always pick that positive one. So yeah, sorry, quite broad, but just a few points.
And you just briefly touched on the media. How was it dealing with the media when you were playing? Was it bad, or was it not as severe as it is now?
Well, I suppose the one big difference we had was social media wasn't a thing when I first started. And I remember when it first came out, Twitter, and just the concept of it, I couldn't get my head around it. I was like, why do people want to know what we're doing? And like, do you know what I mean? So a lot of the girls had signed up to it, and I was so resistant. I was like, I do not understand why you're telling people what you're doing. And now, of course, it's just a part of what we do, and there are benefits to it, of course. But I think now, if someone asked me for advice as a young player, I would say stay off social media, which is a hard thing to do, because I think as a international cricketer, you also have to think about the opportunities that come with having a media following, and so it's hard to just sort of disregard that. But yeah, I mean, when we were playing, we didn't really get that much sort of negative press, if you like, and people commenting about us on social media, whereas I think the girls have to deal with that a lot more now, and that's something that is a challenge for them. But there are positives as well, I'm sure.
Something that I did want to bring up is, obviously I saw yesterday Laura Marsh has launched her kind of spin coaching, bowling analysis kind of enterprise now. So how important do you think these individual kind of endeavours are for your own careers post cricket, but also for the game generally?
Yeah, I think it's really important. Like, I suppose I guess as a player, when you're in that environment, you're very used to just being controlled. You're sort of told where to be, what time, what you need to be wearing, what you need to eat, and it's all very regimented. So I think when you come out of playing, it's always nice to get back that element of control and think, okay, what do I actually want to do? And so I think, for Laura, it's a great sort of endeavour for her, because it's learning a new process, and also it's using her expertise in something that she was one of the best at. So that will only inspire youngsters as well to have that opportunity to work with someone like Laura is brilliant. And I think it's just important that people recognise how much of a great opportunity that is, just to pick the brains and work with one of the best in the business when it comes to off spin. So yeah, I think that it's a real positive for lots of different reasons.
You launched your own female cricket coaching academy in 2017. Did you find it difficult to transition from being a player to a coach?
Yes, a few people have asked me this, and I think the one thing that really helped me was the fact that I was in control of the decision. When I was playing, I did a degree through the Open University, and one of the projects I decided to do was athlete transition. So when they retire, how are they affected, and what makes for a good transition out of being full-time professional to then going into everyday life. And the biggest factor is how the decision is made in terms of your retirement. So are you in control of the decision? So is it something that you decided on your own terms, or was your decision brought on because you got injured or because someone said we don't want to pick you anymore? So I think I was quite conscious of that. So I think being in control of that decision, hopefully, I think I've been okay up until today. I think I'm doing all right. So just from a mental point of view, I feel in a good place, and I have done since. So yeah, just sort of hopefully that decision and the control element was something that has helped as well, just cope with that transition.
I guess that's another kind of string to your bow as well. You can do that kind of consulting and life coach kind of piece as well. Like, is there anything that you can't do? Because Alex and I were speaking beforehand, and we were like, okay, so she's like a player, coach, commentator, also has multiple businesses, the female cricket store, like Cricket for Girls. Like, how do you have any time to yourself as well? Because that's so much.
No, I think I'm a jack of all trades, master of none. I think that's the saying. No, I just enjoy the variety, to be honest, just the variety of doing different things. And yeah, like you say, the challenge on keeping on top of everything. Yeah, I love it. It's, you get out of bed and you've got so many different things to do. And ultimately, just the thing that I do genuinely love is just trying to help the game. So I talk to so many parents, people at clubs, and there's so many amazing people out there wanting to help the women and girls game, and often they don't always know how to do it. So it's like, okay, what can we do to help them? So yeah, I genuinely love that part of it. And obviously chatting with you guys as well, what you're doing is something that's needed as well. Just people want to hear about the women's game, I think. Hopefully.
Yeah, no, but hopefully people do, because the reception we've had has been really positive. But I can completely relate at the moment. I'm just I don't want to sit still, and I don't want to just be like an academic, and I want to do the media stuff, but I want to help make the changes that we want to see and stuff. So
surely it's nice to have insight in different areas, so that it's not like you're doing something which is completely away from your PhD. It's like directly linked to it, I suppose.
Well, I keep saying everything's linked to it just to make myself feel a little bit less guilty for when I'm not actually sat writing up and stuff. But I've got to 50,000 words now, which I surprised myself.
Oh, amazing.
It's a minimum of 80,000, so it's on its way. It's on its
way.
And I've started doing the analysis, but I haven't mentioned to them yet that I want to work for hundreds, and Alex and I have both applied at the moment, but
is that the 100 Rising?
Yeah,
that's really, really good initiative.
So we're just waiting to find out at the moment, but I'm not looking forward to that conversation. But how do you channel your energies into all these different projects as well? And which project are you enjoying most?
Oh gosh, but obviously Cricket for Girls was the first one that I started, and I think that's something that I just love. I'm really passionate about it. I love working with the teachers. Then the female cricket store, I love that for a different reason, because I think it's genuinely solving a problem, and I think it is helping break down one of the barriers that is sort of linked to cricket for women and girls. Is the equipment that we get is only for boys and stuff like that. So that's something that I really enjoy doing, and I think that we will only ever add to that. I think there's so many people now realizing we have to do more for the women and girls game, so that's good. Yeah, I guess the clothing side of it, we're trying to get a women's clothing range. We've got a training range out, but that's probably the biggest challenge at the moment, is getting the women's clothing range together, because as we know, we all come in so many different shapes and sizes that it's important that we reflect that. It's important, I think, as well, because if you feel comfortable in what you're wearing, then you're more confident as well. We go into schools, and young girls are like, oh, cricket, we've got to wear those whites and things like that. So just trying to help break down those barriers, I suppose. But yeah, in answer to your question, I enjoy them all, and try and sort of split the time evenly between them all.
Yeah, because you just mentioned as well about clothing. So we spoke to Sue Strachan as well about this, but I'm not sure if it actually went in the final edit or not, about obviously periods and whites and stuff, because I know, speaking very obviously honestly and openly, with me, I was 11 or 12, I was playing boys cricket, and I had one of my first periods, and it was really kind of awkward. I don't think anybody actually saw, kind of thing.
Yeah,
that genuinely kind of not scarred me, but made me very kind of self-conscious playing cricket for the rest of the time. And I saw Izzy Westbury tweeted back along about wearing 2 pairs of pants, some undershorts underneath your whites and stuff, just to feel comfortable. Yeah. And we've got to remember, this is peak summertime as well, and it's not the most comfortable thing to do and everything, when you are so paranoid and it's summer and you just want to wear some pants under some trousers and not really care. I know you've got some period pants on your store and everything, so how important, you've already touched on, is clothing for women's game and catering it for women?
Yeah, I think I don't think I've ever met someone who isn't conscious of that issue as a cricketer, especially if they're wearing cricket whites. So, and even more so for young girls, I think it's such a, like you say, you're so conscientious of everything, and your period is probably one of the biggest ones. You desperately want to play sport, but there's this one thing holding you back. So yeah, we've got these sort of period wear underwear, which which just, like, I wear them now, and it just provides you with so much confidence. And I think the other element is for parents. So we've actually, you know, if there are sort of single dads out there who look after their daughter, it's a really nice thing to be able to offer them, because they're obviously trying their best to understand what their child needs. So that's a really nice thing to offer as well. Obviously for mums as well, it's the same. So yeah, I think all of those things, like, shouldn't really, but it might still be a bit of a taboo just talking openly about it, but it really shouldn't be, because it's just a very natural thing. So if we can provide something that, again, just gives them, girls and women, more confidence, then that's great as well. It's another sort of tick in the box, really.
Yeah, because I don't even know why I was getting a little bit embarrassed to even say that then. I was like, why am I working myself up just to be like, yeah, I had a period in whites? Like, it's as simple as that, isn't it? But it's obviously, you get made to feel a certain way, I guess. But also even leggings, because I struggle now playing, like, dabbling in and out a bit of like club cricket, just finding leggings that aren't see-through. Yeah. Which sounds really stupid, and I think any men listening to this will be like, what is she talking about?
Yeah.
But it's so true, like, isn't it? Like, it's so hard to find leggings and stuff. So tell us about all of your range with Victrix.
Yeah, so Victrix, it means female champions. So we've gone down the route. So, like, for us, female champions can be anyone. It's not just, you know, it's not just the elite cricketers. It's the mums who are playing cricket and they're trying to juggle lots of different things. It's the older teenagers. So I think one thing with Victrix is we want to create this community and just this understanding that we all have different challenges, but ultimately we are all striving to be the best that we can be. So we just developed this range. So we've got leggings, actually, Hannah, and hopefully they won't be see-through. Well, I can tell you that they're not, because I wear them. So yeah, we've got some leggings, and yeah, just all training equipment, training clothing. So because I know a lot of women who play the game, they don't actually like wearing the traditional sort of trousers, so they actually like having just a nice pair of leggings, a nice top or a vest, a nice hoodie. So we've just developed that range. And yes.
Yeah, no, because I think it is so important, especially to listen to women, because that's what I'm trying to do with, like, my research career. Is I want to develop that down the road. It has to be led by athlete voices, if that's what I'm sticking to, or participant voices, regardless of who that looks like. But I just wanted to pick up on your International Women's Day quote that you put on Twitter. So it's, everyone thinks women should be thrilled when we get crumbs, and I want women to have the cake, the icing and the cherry on top too. And that's Billie Jean King. So tell us what kind of bird you want to post that, and what does that actually mean to you?
Oh gosh, I think it's just, for me, just with some of the experiences that I've had, you're sort of in situations where you're expected to accept much less than what you should be getting, I suppose, is the most simplest way that I can put that. And that might be for many different things. And so I just think that there is a level where, of course, we have to understand that the women's game is growing and it's making some really great strides, which I think we always have to appreciate, but also recognise when it's just not enough. And so people taking easy options to not support the women and girls game, like, I don't think is on. Like, there's no reason why people should be taking those options now. Things like, at a cricket club, I guess, the simplest example, why do the women's team always have to play on the back square or the second pitch? Like, genuinely, why does that have to happen? And it just shouldn't happen. So I suppose that's what I mean, is just with all different things, just want to make sure that women and girls are getting the right stuff. And that's sort of my view on it, really.
I'm going to pass you across to Alex, but first I just want to quickly add, and I'm so sorry, Alex, she's going to kill me later. She's going to be like, you never didn't let me speak. And I was like, no, I'm sorry. But you just reminded me as well, because I've been literally saying that quote recently as well, because I'm like, I completely agree. And we've been chatting, like, me and my old kind of cricket girls and stuff, about all the different experiences of when you play men's cricket and you get changed in like a broom cupboard, and when you get treated as a nuisance rather than being included. And I think you just literally nailed it there. Like, we need to stop all of this, like, being on the second pitch when you're the first team and you've got the Sunday fourth team playing on the first team instead, and all that kind of stuff. But I'll pass you across to Alex now, and I will be quiet, I promise, Alex.
My question is about, well, you had an illustrious 13-year playing career for England. Jenny Garner had a 15-year career. Catherine Brunt is still going. Charlotte Edwards had a long career. What is the key to success and longevity playing for the England women's side?
Oh, good question. I think obviously keeping yourself fit is a big one, and yeah, looking after your body. But then I think also like having your achievements that you want to achieve in mind. So just having those goals in mind. So I actually remember when I made my debut for England when I was 17, and then I got in, and I remember when I was really young, that was all I ever wanted to do, and then so I achieved it, and I think I forgot to reset my goals. So I thought, right, I'm playing for England, great, like I've done it. And so then when I got into sort of my early 20s, I wasn't really trying to achieve anything. So I then reset my goals and, you know, the team goals that you have, the individual goals that you have. And I think that in its simplest form, it just gives you motivation, it gives you focus, and it gives you a reason to just keep training as hard as you can and keep contributing. And so, yeah, I think that's important. And obviously enjoyment, I think post towards the end of my career, I probably stopped enjoying it as much as I should have done. So as long as you're still enjoying it, like playing with someone like Charlotte Edwards, she just loves the game. So just that passion and enjoyment for it is something that is a big driver, I think, in longevity. And like you say, Catherine Brunt's still going, which is brilliant to see. She's been a brilliant sort of ambassador for the game, and yeah, she's as motivated as anyone, which is great.
Do you think that with Lottie being announced as like the head of the PCA, that's only going to elevate the women's status and the women's game?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, anything that she's involved with is generally a good thing. So, yeah, absolutely. I think the PCA have done a great job. They really looked after me when I retired, just in terms of that player welfare element. And I think more than anything, with someone like her in that role, she understands probably what it's like for these new wave of domestic players, because they're not quite professional yet. They're sort of in between that area between being sort of amateur to being professional. So she understands what the players in those situations need as well. And I know Rob Lynch at the PCA, he's a real sort of driver for the women and girls that game, and is so eager to support it as well. So yeah, it's brilliant that she's in that role.
But thinking as well about the structures that have changed, you mentioned KSL earlier. How important have all of these kind of domestic leagues been in the UK, but also globally?
Yeah, I think they're really important. I remember when sort of back in the day we had Super Fours, and that was the best sort of 48 players in the country, and that just drove the standard of cricket. But I think for me, on a global level, every country should sort of aspire to have a competition like that, because it only develops the players coming through to that top end of the game. And I guess it's that pyramid thing. The more you've got at the bottom of the pyramid, the more you've got filtering up. So yeah, I think on a global level, that's what teams should strive for, is having that brilliant domestic competition which attracts the best players in the world. And obviously, I mean, it will be a challenge when all countries have that, but I think it will be a good challenge to have in terms of opportunities for players, because now at the moment you only really see sort of the big names, the ones flying around to play in all these different things. I think it's about giving opportunity to perhaps the teams who don't have as much opportunity from an international point of view, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely, because I don't know if this is the same kind of page or whatever, but thinking about obviously Thailand last year making their kind of World Cup tournament debut, some of those players they're talented to be there, aren't they? Like, they're there on merit, they're not there because, you know, they're just an add-on or whatever. Like, and those players don't have the same opportunities to play in all these leagues, like I think what some players perhaps take for granted.
Definitely. I think it's all, like you say, it's all about opportunity. That if those players are given opportunity over a period of time, they will compete. Like, there's no doubt about it. So it's just what can be done to create that opportunity, and like you say, having more of those sort of domestic competitions, allowing them play against each other more, is really important. So yeah, massive one for just trying to create as much opportunity as possible.
I think that's a really nice place to kind of wrap up. And Alex, have you got any other questions, or should we just do the quick fire ones and then conclude?
I've just got a quick
question. Perfect. Yeah, go for it.
What are your hopes for the 2021 season, be it with coaching, commentating, the works?
Oh gosh, just want it to all be successful. I think, yeah, the 100 for me, I want it to be a success because I think it's a great. Obviously, I'm involved in it, and I know people have different views on the 100, but I think it's only going to elevate the game more. So hopefully that can be successful, and we can be helped by good weather, by hopefully allowing some crowds in if it's safe. And then I guess from another point of view, I want to see more domestic players challenging England players for spots. I think that would then put us in a really good position. So finding some real hidden gems coming through this year, I think will be a nice outcome as well.
Perfect. Well, Alex is a pro at these very quick fire questions. So do you want to kick them off, Alex?
Yeah, sure. Favourite genre of music?
Indie rock. That one's easy.
Favourite band or musician?
Oh, that's a bit harder, isn't it? Probably someone like Oasis, I'd say.
Last book you read?
Last book I read, oh my gosh. One of my weaknesses is I have about 5 books on the go. What did I read? Oh, I'll tell you what it was. It was about Netflix and how Netflix was developed. A boring business book, yeah.
Last TV show you binge watched?
Oh, what was that? The Missing. It's an older one now, The Missing, with James Nesbitt in, I think.
When you were playing cricket, who was your best friend in the team?
Oh gosh, I had a few, so can I name a few? I can't.
Go for it.
Well, obviously Lottie, 'cause played with her for a long time, and then there was sort of a group. So Ish, Jenny Gunn, Beth Morgan, and Laura Marsh, and Catherine Brunt.
Favourite place you've toured?
Well, that's a good one. Probably India, I think, for the experience. India.
Then I'm going to let Hannah ask the next one because it is her favourite question to ask.
This also makes me sound really mean, but what is your favourite sledging term?
Well, the thing is, because I was a batter, I never sledged anyone because you know it's going to bite you in the backside. So yeah, sorry, terrible answer, but I just haven't got one.
See, I'm not having any of this because everybody says, oh no, I never sledged. And I'm like, come on, you must have said some sort of, maybe it was just terrible chat instead because...
Oh gosh, I'm sure there's been a few, but
it doesn't matter if they're not PG either because that's just funny too. Because we had, to be fair, Enid said some interesting ones, but we also had Roberta from Brazil who was speaking about. I mean, this is definitely PG, but she was talking about like dots on a Dalmatian and stuff like that. And I just remember growing up, all the terrible chat that us girls used to have.
Back to Wales.
Yeah, all of those, especially when you play against Wales, and it's like,
Oh, quite a brutal one, actually. I was on the receiving end of it. Alyssa Healy, we were playing in a test match, and what did she say? I think she said, "You're boring everyone. This is going to be your last test match." And it was my last test match. It actually made me laugh because I obviously work with her now, so I'm with the Sydney Sixers, and when you get to know her you just realise that there's absolutely no malice in it at all. It's just literally, to try and distract you. But that was quite a brutal one.
That is savage.
It is, yeah.
One of my friends once told me that my batting's so boring it's like watching paint dry, and that stuck with me and it's really scarred me because I hate batting. It's because I'm like, no, I'm so boring. I think this is why I hate it, but no.
Well, that gives you a license to go out there and go against the grain and, try and whack out the park.
Yeah, I can barely get it off the square. Alex, have you got a couple more and then we will let you escape?
Hannah, if you've got a couple, go for it.
Favourite innings?
Oh, this is just a selfish one, but just down at the Rose Bowl, well, Southampton, the Ageas Bowl, to help win the Ashes. That was a good one a few years ago.
Favourite international player to play with?
Probably a couple. So they're all Kiwis, actually. So Emily Drum, who was our first Kent overseas player, one of the first, learned so much from her. And then more recently, Sarah McGlashan and Susie Bates. They're a good breed, I think, the Kiwis. Yeah, just learnt a lot from them and enjoy playing with them.
And final one, what is your favourite tea item?
Favourite tea item?
Yeah, in terms of a cricket tea, a classic full cricket tea. What's your first item that you go to?
Well, it's got to be a scone, hasn't it? With a bit of cream and jam.
Which way round?
Cream first, definitely, and then the jam on top. What are you guys?
I don't really eat scones, but I think you're going to spark the debate about how it's pronounced now. I'd say scone, but some people say scone.
I say both. But thank you so much for coming on, and sorry we've stolen an extra 5 minutes.
No problems. Nice to chat to you both.
Yeah, genuinely really appreciate it, and hopefully there's lots of power quotes that we'll put out across social as well.
Thanks, guys. Well done. You're doing a great job.
As are you with your female cricket store, which I think is a genius idea. If that had been around when I was growing up, I think I would have been more inclined to take up cricket.
We shall let you escape, but before we do, we just realised that we need to get your social media stuff for the cricket store and everything. If you could quickly just spill that out, and then...
So Twitter is at Cricket for Girls, all lowercase. Then my one is just at Lydia Greenway. Do you want the Victrix and female cricket store?
Yes, please.
Victrix is at Sports Victrix with a capital S on sports and a capital V.
Perfect.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much. Have a lovely rest of the day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Massive thank you to Lydia for coming on and being a guest on the podcast. If you wanted to follow the female cricket store on Twitter, it's at the female CKTST1. It was really great to chat to Lydia and talk to her about all things England, post-playing career, commentating opportunities, and to get to know Lydia as a person away from cricket. And to all our listeners, if you want to keep up to date with everything we're doing, you can follow us on Twitter at WCricketChat and on Instagram at Women's Cricket Chat. And if you want to give us a like on Facebook, we are Women's Cricket Chat. And if you wanted to give our personal Twitters a follow, Hannah is at HannahT1194 and I'm at Alex Jane Pereira. This has been Women's Cricket Chat. Tune in next time.